Jesus Christ. I don't know where you are right now, but as Chris was reading that lesson from Ezekiel about the valley of the dry bones and God and the prophet calling the breath into those bones, St. James Lutheran Church was just rattling with the wind going over the roof. So I hope it's windy wherever you are, and I hope you could hear the wind. I am struck by this story from John chapter 11, and the thing that strikes me this year in thinking about it is how normal everything sounds. I mean, Jesus had some friends, and when there was a problem, they called, and when somebody died, they gathered and they wept together. Jesus stopped by their house. In his travels, he would stop in for a meal regularly. They were close enough friends that they could argue about things. They could express their disappointments in someone arriving too late. It is a perfectly normal friendship that Jesus has with Lazarus and Mary and with Martha. And I want you to know that as a Christian, I believe that in Jesus Christ, God chooses to draw near to humankind. And I believe God is drawing near to us now. This is my faith. The world is going through something that it hasn't seen probably in 100 years. And that is a virus that started halfway around the world and then came to our country and now seems very near. And the news, if you're still reading the news or watching the news, is sometimes a little scary. So I want to invite you to pick your metaphor. It was the darkest valley. It was the stormiest sea. It was a barren, forsaken wilderness. It was the tallest mountain with its peak up in the clouds. In all of these places, as terrifying as they may be, God draws near. And you don't have to believe me. You could ask Abraham or Sarah or Moses or Miriam or Ruth or David or Elijah or Jonah. You could ask the 12. You could ask Mary. You could ask Paul. That's why the psalmist writes, even though I walk through the darkest valleys, I will fear no evil because you are with me. Sometimes I think I see God drawing near to us in our present circumstance. And let me just give you a few examples. A month or 6 weeks ago, like you, I was probably thinking about March Madness and the new James Bond movie, my taxes, and a busy couple weeks ahead at work. And now everything's been canceled. The world has said, go home, be safe, be with your family, as though those other things didn't matter in the first place. The government of the United States in the last few days acting in a bipartisan fashion, and just linger over that idea, a bipartisan action. It sounds like something has frozen over. In a bipartisan action, has decided that they're going to send money back to its citizens. They want to provide more health care, and they don't want people to worry about what it's going to cost. They say, for a time at least, that people can't be evicted. In some places, they're opening up prisons and setting the frail, elderly inmates free. This sounds like a biblical jubilee. I talked to a lot of pastors this week about their experience last weekend. I said, hey, how was worship? And they said, well, we were doing online church for the first time, or maybe the second time, and we had this glitch and that glitch, but it was okay. And then in about their second thought, they would say, I think attendance was a little bit up. Like more people are coming to church either because the circumstance is so frightening or because the church has finally acted to reach out to people who could never come into our buildings. I was working here at church in this great, big, beautiful building all by myself this week, and I saw a couple walk through our parking lot, and they were walking kind of shoulder to shoulder, walking their dog. And I thought to myself, I wonder if they realize how lucky they are to have a companion in this time. And I wonder how often I and maybe you have taken our companions for granted before this. I've talked to a lot of people this week, a lot of members of the church, but a lot of people elsewhere in the world. And nobody's complaining. The universal reaction of the people I've been talking to is a sense of gratitude, a sense that they're blessed. And then they start wondering about others and expressing some worry for them and asking, what can I do? How can I help? I told you last week that if we wanted to, we could all give blood. So I called LifeServe Blood Center on Tuesday. I didn't want to do it. I don't like needles. I don't love giving blood, but I brought it up in the sermon, so I had to. I called them on Tuesday morning and I said, I'd like to schedule an appointment. And they said, I'm sorry, we're full up all week long. And I thought maybe that would get me out of the whole thing. And they said, but we'll schedule you for Wednesday morning at 10:50 a.m. Maybe the world is responding. And in that response, maybe we see God drawing near to us. Now, in this story, Jesus utters 4 quite clear commands, and I suspect they're addressed as much to us as to those who first heard him. He says, believe in me, and roll that stone away, and Lazarus come out, and unbind him and let him go. In what ways are we doubting? Those times when I'm afraid, is Jesus Christ commanding us to believe and to have faith? I wonder how it is that we have walled off other people. Or we've said about an individual, that person's dead to me. Or maybe a group of individuals, they're all dead to me. Jesus says, roll away the stone. I wonder what tombs we're living in. The usual ones are shame, blame, guilt, anger. Jesus says, come out. And who is bound in our world? The hungry, the homeless, the lonely. Jesus says, I give you the power to unbind them. And not only the power, but the obligation. Jesus said, I'm the resurrection and the life. This week, sometime, maybe today, but if not today, in the coming days, I hope all of us can say with Martha and Mary, yes, Lord, we believe. And then let us fearlessly be about the work that God has called us to in this moment, confident that we are not alone. Let all of God's people say, thanks be to God and amen. Larry Christensen picked our hymn of the day. It's hymn 333. If you have a hymnal, I would invite you to turn to that. This is a professional recording from the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, and kind of an interesting way to learn this new hymn, hymn 333.
Jesus is the rock.